getting out of hand. How is everyone doing? Can you hear me fine? Do you have a drink by your side? Are you settled? Hello, Cafe Guy. Hello, Smiley. I know I sound great. Awesome. I'm very much looking forward to this one. You as well, Mad Hatter?
Me as well. Apparently, I'm due here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I said I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh yes, very much so.
I mean, it's been a long time since we had AJ in, right? Like
Yeah,
years.
it's been a hot minute.
And there he is.
I'm going to mute myself for a minute.
Hello, AJ, my man.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you? David, Mad Hatter, happy to be back, guys. Sorry, a little bit late. A lot going on right now.
Good. Oh, good. You know how it is. We have our little grace period in the beginning.
Yes, thank you, brother.
So don't worry about it.
Awesome. Well, happy to be back. Again, I joked about it on the last AMA, but I think I may have to have like a permanent spot at the Pillars. Just every week we check in with each other.
Yeah, I mean that would be awesome. Then you know what? Then we're going to create a whole stage for you. It's called not the Pillars hot seat, but the AJ hot seat.
All right, perfect, man. I love it. Sounds like a plan.
Also was joking around with Mad Hatter just now that it's been a very long time that we had you in. Like it's basically a week or something.
Yeah, if that, right? Yeah, it's like a few days, right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but that's awesome. It just means you guys are grinding, hustling, and I mean you've been doing awesome stuff. And I mean, even look at your name. At some point, your name is going to run out of space for new projects to add there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt. I think 3 is the max. I don't know, a fourth, then I may have to clone myself. So yeah, totally.
Or just create like an overspanning name of the ecosystem, and then
Yes,
you're good to go.
totally. Yeah, I like to call it the mothership. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
AJ, the mothership.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. Already love the attendance, by the way. Thank you, guys, that you showed up so plentiful. I know there are going to be a lot more people joining, as it's one of the topics surrounding AJ is like always draws the people in. I don't know what it is, AJ, about you that you bring all those people in here.
Yeah,
All the
well,
time.
it's surely not my good looks. It must be my shining personality, huh? No, yeah.
David, I'm good to go whenever you are.
Okay. Then I would say, let me just check if Craig is in here. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you all for coming, guys. Welcome to the Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors for intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now, let me introduce someone you will most definitely know already. Like probably the person that we had on stage the most often here. It is Mr. AJ Brockman from EMP, Sparkswap, L1Dex, basically the mothership of crypto. Welcome back, AJ. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing Sparkswap with us today. I want to the community, as you know, as per usual, the community questions channel is open for you. Please ask away. When I'm hopping back to the audience, I'm going to share all the links so you can read along. If you have any questions, just share them. There are no bad questions. Also, as you can see, we have a $50 giveaway happening at some point. Mad Hatter is going to announce. And yeah, I think regarding Sparkswap, I'm going to let the introduction to you, AJ, because I believe you can do a far better job than I can do. Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to hop off of the stage. Please ask questions, and I hope you enjoy.
All right, thanks, David. Absolutely, brother. Mad Hatter, it's a pleasure to be here. Shout out to the entire Pillars community. And yeah, I'm happy to jump right in. Mad Hatter, anything before we get started? Or yeah, go ahead, brother.
The only thing I was going to ask is, how are you? Like, before we
Yeah.
even get into everything that we've got to discuss with Sparkswap, and it's going to be exciting. You guys are grinding like mad. You and LA are everywhere. How are you doing with all of that work?
Yes, brother. Thank you, man. That means a lot. Again, set aside our business relationships. That means a lot from personal relationships. So, yeah, man, we're not getting a lot of sleep. But this is the kind of thing that we live for. And yeah, LA and I and the rest of the team, as well as the Dex Finance team. Again, we were here only a few days ago to discuss. On Dex, but yeah, now
Right.
we're here to talk about Spark, and yeah, I mean, now, and this was a reoccurring theme in the other AMA, but now is the time to build. I mean, during the bear market is when we have been literally, like you said, grinding, getting all of this out and ready. It just so happens that it's all coming together at once. That
Right.
wasn't really something that we had planned, but well, you got to capitalize while you can, and it just so happened the code was finished right around the same time that L1X went live. So yeah, it's a lot at once, but it's also great for momentum for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic for momentum, and it's exciting to see it all roll out actually this quickly, because it kind of starts to create a really full picture for everybody that was with you from the EMP days, through L1X, L1 Dex, and then now SparkSwap. Before we start, and I'm going to let you give a high-level overview of what SparkSwap is. I kind of want to challenge the audience a little bit, and I want to challenge them because, we've had you on now, as David said, probably more than anybody else that we've spoken. And one of the things that I've said over and over again is how impressed I am with A, how hard you guys work, B, the level of communication that you offer your communities, and just how transparent you are with your information. There are very few teams within this space, especially at this level that we're operating in within DeFi, that are doing what you guys are doing, and you always put integrity first, which I appreciate. I think you guys work incredibly hard for your communities. That's not to say things don't go wrong. That's not to say things can't be better in some areas. And that's not to say that we're not going to have some hard questions to throw in your direction. Of course we will. But you do work incredibly hard for your community. So I'm going to kind of challenge the community now to ask a bunch of questions. But I also want you to challenge yourselves on working hard for the devs in this space that are doing what you want them to do. We're always saying we don't want to be rugged. We're always saying we want to be able to trust in a team. We're always saying we want those teams that have integrity. And then when they come along, we kind of take a little bit for granted how hard they're working. And, there was a project that rugged today, for example. I'm sure there was plenty, but there was somebody that jumped into this space and was complaining that a project rugged today. You've got a team here that isn't going anywhere. They're priding themselves on not going anywhere. And in fact, one of the mainstays of what they're saying now is, trust in a team, not a protocol. We don't plan to leave this space. We're building for a better space. And if they're prepared to do that for you, I think what we can do as investors, at the very least, is give them a fraction more attention than we would someone else, and really learn how these protocols, DEXs, work so that they can be played, for lack of a better word, because there's gamification to it, in the right way, and in a way that allows everybody to benefit for the maximum amount of time possible. And I'll finish on this. You've already said, and you said this last week, AJ, is that LA was a community member, and she's managed to build herself into an integral part of what you guys are building. And frankly, she is an absolute cornerstone of what Sparkswap is at the moment. I see her everywhere. I see her posting everywhere. I think if the community members that are in the Sparkswap Discord in your EMP community put a fraction of the energy that she puts into it, not only could this be huge, but I can't even get my head around how far along it would be. So yeah, I just want to challenge the community when they come in, ask questions, to just really be thinking about that as we go along.
Absolutely, Mad Hatter. And again, brother, I really appreciate that. Again, the love and support from not only you, but the entire Pillars community has been unwavering, even from early on. I mean, we were one of the first AMAs when EMP actually launched. So, and again, I don't want that to be confused with, again, trust, but verify. And again, all of our contracts are audited. Obviously, there's something to be said for trusting in somebody, but there has to be data that backs it up, and we do both of that. So again, we do everything we can to be fully transparent. Again, we come from a DeFi background as users, and we built EMP and all of our ecosystems in that vein of a protocol that we would want to see. And that was one of the main reasons that I originally doxed myself. Because again, at the time, nobody was doing that. And, regardless of potential, regulatory consequences, I thought it was really important to do that and really, put a face and an actual person, behind the protocol. And I think that
Right.
had a lot to do with our success in the beginning and our continued success. Because obviously, we have a lot to lose. And that should be a great, determining factor that we are here for the right reasons, for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and you come from a background that has already a high reputation, and from what I know from the many times that we've spoken, we've had private chats. You're not going to put the integrity of what you've done on the line for nothing. You're going to ensure that if you're going to put your, not just your integrity but your reputation on the line, it's going to be backed by something that you can fully stand behind, and that's what I appreciate.
Yes.
So with that said, Sparkswap has been getting people excited. It's been particularly hard trying to prep for this CEE because I've seen so many videos outlining how to play it, outlining how it works, that I was really having to sift through a lot of information just to kind of find some unique angles to come at you with, which I'll try and do in a bit. But can you tell us what Sparkswap
Yeah,
is?
absolutely. So, again, and in all honesty, before we get started too, Sparkswap has become its own animal, and we've seen some amazing growth and again, TVL and community all within about 11 days, which is a testament to all of our emperors and empresses, and all of you that know, the sort of protocols that we build. So. First of all, shout out to all of you for helping it be as successful as it has been so far. But yeah, SparkSwap is the next sister protocol of our entire ecosystem. And I want to first start by saying, we are everything we do is 100% intentional. So I know, sometimes people can see launching other protocols as a distraction or, not the best use of a developer's time, and maybe they think, well, they're going to forget about EMP, the original protocol, but all of those are unequivocally not the case. I mean, we are building an entire ecosystem under the EMP umbrella. Again, David mentioned it earlier, the mothership we call it, and everything that we do again is 5 steps ahead of what we may be releasing to the public. So SparkSwap was something we were working on for a while in the background, and really, at the end of the day, it's a way of us to not only potentially monetize, but also drive more adoption and eyeballs to EMP. So that was again just a high level view of the actual background of why we decided to go with SparkSwap. But SparkSwap is an AMM or an automated market maker or yield farm that is built on the PulseChain. So again, love him or hate him, Richard Hart is a very polarizing character, but he is responsible for launching PulseChain, and we had originally set out to build a tune fork by the name of Impulse on PulseChain, but that was really before we knew the pitfalls that we see in a lot of these tune forks and other inflationary uh, style protocols. So we had started again
Hmm.
toying with something of a different, something that would be a better fit for the ecosystem, and not just another, for lack of a better word, a lot of people like to use, another money grab or another something that is ancillary to the overall success of this mothership. And we settled on a DEX. Again, it's starting as an AMM because we wanted to be able to offer high rewards, get people in the door. Yes, Spark is inflationary. But the whole idea is that over time, we wean ourselves off of that inflationary model and move towards a real yield. And now we have a DEX already set up on PulseChain that not only feeds revenue back to EMP, but will also be the other side of the interoperability that L1 DEX provides. So again, we're essentially creating our own partner network of protocols that we
Right.
actually own. So that is so powerful in the bigger picture for sure. Yeah.
Yes, it is, and the ecosystem is something I'm definitely going to want to talk to you about because it's. You've been hinting that, of course, you're now starting to say a bit more freely that everything that we're doing is by design. We're releasing things by design. Maybe it's coming a little quicker than we expected because code is finished faster, but everything is being worked in a way that you've already pre-thought out. And you are always saying, this is a builder's market. Millionaires are made in bear markets, not bull markets. So what you're doing right here, right now, is set to really align yourselves to be in the best and the strongest possible
Yeah,
position for that
100%,
bull
Matt
market.
Hatter. And again, that being said as well, we're also innovating in some of the very key aspects of what we're building at Sparkswap. So yes,
Hmm.
a pancake swap or Goose Finance fork for the base code and the traditional Master Chef contracts that we all know and love. But we're actually even building on top of that, and there are two key things that make SparkSwap different. And one of them is rehypothecation. So I know that's a big word. A lot of people may not be familiar with that. But we intentionally built SparkSwap on top of PulseX, which is the native exchange for Pulse. We did that because they offer a reward token in their ecosystem called Ink. It's actually called
Hmm.
incentive token, which again is pretty ironic because it is the incentive for providing LP. And so we built on top of that and are able to take the LP farms within SparkSwap and the LP farms that are eligible for Ink rewards. We then pass that through to stake in the Pulse X LP and get rewarded in ink, and then that ink can be sold to buy back Pulse and Spark through our reward mechanism of Sparkler, which we'll talk about next. But that's very innovative. Very
Right.
few AMMs or DEXs or anything like that use this rehypothecation, and it's important because it's literally revenue that's generated from the LP that's already in the protocol. So it's a literally a win-win, and provides additional support on price without having to worry about new users. So that is the first major difference, and then the second major difference is a contract that we built on top called Sparkler, and Sparkler is our solution to curbing the inflation that, again, we are all very well aware of. Runaway inflation can really hurt a protocol. And typically you see it even in the
Hmm.
ink token itself on PulseX. Cake is another example. The token is meant to be sold, and inherently that is a very negative, economic model for any token. So the idea is that we have given a real use case and utility to the reward token, which in our case is Spark, where you can lock it up into the Sparkler. And the longer that you lock your Spark into Sparkler, again, when you start getting into 2, 3, 5, even 10 years, which is the maximum, you are essentially burning the reward token because it's taking it out of circulation.
Right.
But as a reward, you are given part of the protocol fees um, uh, of real yield from the protocol for going into Sparkler. And this is, again, revolutionary. No other AMM works like this. And it really has done an incredible job of really flattening out the selling pressure. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the chart alone on Spark, and no other chart of a reward token looks like
Right.
the chart that we have. So again, there's actual numbers and math that are proving everything that we're saying for sure.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, I'm looking at your chart at the minute, and the liquidity is 2.1 million. The market cap is 2.2 million.
Yes.
And at one point, the liquidity was over the market cap, which I don't think I've ever seen on a token before, ever.
Yes, Mad Hatter. Again,
Um,
that's another proof in the pudding of how powerful this is. Yeah.
right. And in the 11 days, you mentioned, the TVL that you guys have. Just so everybody is aware, I think it's now at 8.355 million, just about to tick over to 8.356 million TVL. And that's just in 11 days, which is obviously very impressive. But when we talk about that money that's coming in, I want to circle a little bit back to the Richard Hart that you mentioned and Pulse. I know that you are a bit of a maxi on it. You made a ton of money with Hex, I believe. And, you believe that there's great things that come out of it. But of course, we also know there are and have been plenty of rugs on that chain. There's been problems. He's obviously in trouble with the SEC. We can speculate how that's going to go, and the likelihood is he'll either settle or win, and that might do fantastic things for the Pulse token. Was it an absolute thought of yours that you wanted to come onto PulseChain? Did you and ah about doing this on a different chain? How did you come about where you were going to build this DEX? And other than speculating just on it being something that he's doing, and I know you've also mentioned the reason you've launched right at this moment is you believe it's the bottom of Pulse. So, you're only seeing really or hoping that it goes up from here. But how much did you think about going onto another chain?
Yeah, brother. Again, those are amazing points, Mad Hatter, and I say this on every AMA. But you literally are the king of doing your research into the track record and the history of this rollout, even for any project. So yeah, again,
Thank you,
and
sir.
those are all valid points. And yes, so I am an original Hexagon. I did do very well with that. And the point though is that you can have the most amazing blockchain in the world, and admittedly, Pulse chain really doesn't have anything different. There's no amazing interoperability that L1X has solved. It's literally just a copy and paste version of any EVM. But Pulse has a community, and that is worth its weight in gold because even a mediocre chain, if people are using it, that is value. And again, I think Richard Hart even has a thing called Richard Hart's law that kind of goes into this about the value of a network is based on its users. So again, I mean, regardless of whether you love him or hate him, and I happen to think he is a pretty brilliant mind in crypto. But even, and that's my personal opinion. But even if you hated Richard, and you didn't like the chain or whatever, you can't argue with the economics that we have built, and we absolutely have plans. Again, the reason we decided to launch on Pulse to begin with was like I mentioned earlier, we already had a community from Impulse. A lot of people were excited about that. We did feel it was at the bottom, which again is another major benefit. It's what you know. Uh, I think that it allows some exponential growth from here. Again, that's all speculative, but because we
Hmm.
are tied, the Spark token is tied to Pulse in terms of its liquidity, like you said, $2 million worth. If Pulse goes on a run, that will drag the price of Spark with it to highs that we could only imagine. So all of
Right.
that was definitely the determining factors of launching on Pulse. But the beauty of this code is that we could really launch the Sparkswap model on any chain, and in fact, we have a lot on our plate right now, but down the road, we would definitely entertain that, especially building out this ecosystem of other partner dexes. If people, what do they say? If somebody won't build it, then you got to do it yourself. So that is the mentality that we
Right.
have for sure. Yeah,
Right. And of course, L1 Dex plays into that very
for
nicely,
sure.
which is going to allow this to communicate cross chain seamlessly. Let's talk about taxes a little bit, and we will get into kind of how people can earn, where they can earn, what the percentages are, if the percentages can stay like this. But I want to talk about taxes a little bit because I've heard you say that you feel it's a bit of a lazy way to gain revenue, and they're constrictive. And I always get the impression that when I hear you speak, that you want to be as free from limits as possible, specifically around whales, for example. That you want to be able to encourage whales to come in, and you don't want to restrict their ability or desire to come in. Why do you think this is different without those taxes to bring those whales in? And what else are you guys foreseeing is going to be encouragement for those whales to come into this particular DEX?
Yeah, no doubt. So again, love them or hate them, just like Richard Hart, whales are that same thing. I mean, large investors really can become the backbone of a
Mm,
protocol. So we try to offer, we're very fair. In other words, there's no advantage to being a whale, but we have to cater to whales as well. So and the number one way to do that is with large liquidity. So again, because when a whale goes to buy a token, they don't want to be hit with price
right.
impact. And if somebody wants to buy, $100,000 worth of a token, and there's only $200,000 of liquidity, you're getting killed in price impact. So that is really important for us again as we continue to grow. But you know as far as taxes, yeah, I have been public in saying that I'm not a fan of hard-coded
Hmm.
taxes in a token. I know we've seen a lot of other protocols have major success just from in and out taxes alone. And again, I think there's a time and place for that, but at the end of the day, it's about providing use case and utility and giving people freedom to do what they want with the token rather than essentially handcuffing them into what the protocol feels is the best. So we have a different approach. We absolutely have fees. So there's in and out fees into each pool other than the native pool. In fact, or the farms and
Mm,
the pools are actually a bit higher, even industry standard. They're a bit higher because the pools are really essentially free money. Meaning that once you ROI on your fees, you're able to earn from the protocol at essentially risk free, other than the volatility of the assets.
right.
So because of that, we have to make the fees in and out very high on the pools. Again, you have no risk of impermanent loss. It's only a single asset with a pool. But those fees go directly to rewarding the protocol. So again, I mentioned Sparkler earlier,
Yes.
but the way that's done. So again, a great example would be the Ethereum pool. So when a user deposits Ethereum, it's 4% in and 4% out. So you're hit with 4% fee on your deposit. That 4% of Ethereum from the deposit is then taken again all trustlessly and through decentralized code. Nobody is pressing buttons, behind the scenes, but that fee is taken. It then buys half Spark token and half PLS.
Mm-hmm.
So we're providing buying pressure on Spark, and we're providing buying pressure on Pulse, which I think is why a lot of Pulse maxis like Sparkswap,
Right.
because we're doing what's healthy for the ecosystem. It's then once that happens, those two assets are paired together to create Spark PLS LP, which deepens our liquidity, and then you're rewarded in LP tokens through Sparkler. So again, by doing that, some people may not want to sell their LP, and that only adds to the liquidity of the protocol. So again, those are some really unique economic features that are all part of why we've seen such success.
Right. Out of curiosity, how long in the making has this been? So, when did the ideas surrounding this hit you and your team, and how long have you really been kind of crunching the numbers and trying to figure out how you can best create something like this?
Yeah, so I mean, the spinning up an AMM or a fork of Pancake is not hard. We see many protocols do this as again a money grab or um, just a master chef contract is very simple in terms of code. So
Mm-hmm.
that really wasn't the hard part. The hard part was how do we design this to be actually sustainable? So
Right.
that is where again, the secret sauce of Sparkler and everything else came into play. And we've been working on this. I think we announced Impulse again, the original idea of just a tomb fork about a year ago. And so, but as we saw, the pitfalls of EMP. And other tomb fork models, we had started again brainstorming even then on a better system. And we had originally said that we would launch Fusion, which is the new version of EMP that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But with L1X, we're hoping that Fusion is truly interoperable anyway, which again could be some alpha for the pillars, and therefore we didn't need to launch another, quote unquote, copy of what we're already doing. So that was
Right.
all how this all came about. And once we really figured out a way through the sparkler to curb that, negative effect and really have a real yield distribution, I mean, it all came together within a matter of weeks.
Right.
So that was the final piece, while simultaneously we're still building out Fusion as well. So we had to still prioritize Fusion. Sparkswap was the side project, really, and now it's becoming,
Yeah, that's
with
crazy.
everybody getting involved, it's been a monster for sure.
Yeah, it's an absolute beast, and I say again, your team is incredible, and I attribute a lot of that to what LA is doing in the background. Some of the stuff that she's doing, how she navigates the community and really galvanizes people to get involved. What she's done with the bank, for example, I think is fantastic, and we'll come on to that in terms of the team effort and the teamwork there, and what she's doing to get that extra exposure. Um, you mentioned the secret source. I, of course, want to talk about where people can earn money. The APRs in, for example, the Spark PLS. I mean, it's a crazy APR at the minute. It's 1,059%. That's high. You've also got, I believe, stable to stable, which is 335. And I don't think I've seen that drop. I think it's pretty much remained the same for some time now, which is about, 0.92 a day, I think you can earn on a stable coin. So no impermanent loss whatsoever. And the sparkler, I kind of asked around, and people were saying they've not seen the daily percentage drop below 4%. So the first question is going to be, I know that you don't want to give financial advice, but What anticipation are you that all of the percentages are going to drop off, and how fast do you think that might happen, and where might the sweet spot be? And for something like the Sparkler, current APR 395, I think it's hovering around 395 to 417. One of the main questions that a lot of the investors are going to have is how do we keep the Sparkler from dropping below that percentage? And then I'm kind of going to get into the secret sauce of what obviously investors can do in terms of doing their part to play the gamification of the DEX in the right way to enable these percentages to stay where they are.
I love it. Absolutely, Mad Hatter. So yeah, we're going to all that. So the first question is, how long are the APRs going to stay? Again, I wish I was a fortune teller.
Yeah.
That's not part of my skill set as of right now, but I'm working on it. So, but yeah, we obviously, that the APR in the farms is determined by the price of Spark. So if Spark stays fairly consistent in terms of price. And the other factor is dilution. So the more people that go into that pool, it can also, or pool or farm, it can reduce the amount of rewards because there's only the total inflation on Spark is 80,000 tokens a day. So that works out to be about one Spark every second. And so, obviously people are going to take profit in Spark alone, and we hope that the buying pressure from those fees, outweighs any potential selling pressure. But over time, yes, I mean we're not naive to the fact that APRs may go down over time. But right now it's about yield, and I think that's something that people don't really equate. It's what we try to really teach in EMP, is that the richest people in the world, they generate their wealth from yield producing assets. So a yield producing asset, would be a business or real estate where you have this asset and this asset actually makes you money, and those people, again, these richest people in the world, they actually never sell their assets. I mean, they accumulate more wealth through yield. And again, I mean, if you retire or you want to completely cash out, then yeah, you sell your native or your asset as a whole. But over the long run, it's about creating passive income, and that same analogy can be applied to Sparkler. So rather than selling your Spark outright, you can stake it into Sparkler and then be rewarded in, again, this real yield. And as you said, Matt Hatter, the other mechanism is that longer pays better. So the longer that you stake your Spark,
Right.
the more shares you receive, and shares determine the quote unquote share of the reward. So again, as an example, say there was 100,000 shares available in Sparkler, and you owned 10,000 of that, then you would get 10% of all the rewards generated. So that being said, you're right. I mean, we've seen, and the way the APR is calculated is a what we call a lagging indicator. So we can only determine the APR based on previous numbers, and so we're still working out a way to really accurately project the APR. But the APR you're seeing is a worst case scenario at the moment. And again, APR is determined on a year time frame, annual percentage rate. But in reality, with compounding, it could be even way more than that. So even if the APR goes down over time. So again, and we've seen the maximum stakes, which right now is 10 years. Yeah, they've been over 4% since the protocol launched, and are not going down. So that's a really good sign.
Right.
Exactly.
Because of course you're also getting that 400% bonus. 10 years gives you that maximum of 400% bonus. Yeah. Now the secret sauce in terms of what investors can do. this is the first time I kind of try and give you a bit of a hard time, because I saw the graphic of the infinite money generator. Now, if I had to give a criticism, my criticism would be in calling it the infinite money generator. I don't know why I find that particular title jarring, but I just, for me, it's an informed money generator, or an educated money generator. It's people that understand how to play the system to reduce as much of the sell pressure on the token as possible, and to ensure that they can keep benefiting for as long as possible. Maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe it's a hang up from some of the wording that a lot of these, kind of protocols that were out to do nefarious things in the last bull run were wording. But that's the only criticism I can give on that. But in terms of the way it works, it's very interesting in how you guys are setting it up, because one of the ways to play it, of course, is that you buy your Spark at whatever price that might be, and you put it straight into the sparkler, and you want to get the maximum amount out of it, for example. And I'm not suggesting anybody do this. It's not financial advice. This is a way of playing the system. You put it in for your 10 years and you're getting that 400%. Now, at the minute, it's 4% a day. And if that were to survive for at least 25 days, you would have ROI'd. And if you take all of that LP and put it into, before you even think about breaking it up, if you put it into the farm, you've now got double your position. You're earning in the farm and you're earning in the sparkler. And then you guys are suggesting, well, what you should start doing is splitting up the LP 50-50, redeposit 50%, take profit from the other 50%, but take that profit in PLS. And if you take it in PLS, again, you're reducing the sell pressure far more on the Spark token, which allows the protocol to be healthy. It's a lot to take in. Have you thought about maybe something more intuitive on the DApp that allows people to understand that automatically? I know with EMP, you had the zapping function. You were able to allocate where people were going to implement things. Is that something you're going to start moving towards in the future, that can kind of not give people financial advice, but guide them in the way to play it, that it's at its healthiest for the protocol?
Yeah, Mad Hatter, absolutely, brother. So, again, I fully understand that the first part of your comment of the infinite money generator, and honestly, it is a bit tongue in cheek of us, because it is a marketing ploy. I
Right.
know, like you said, unfortunately, a lot of other protocols use it for nefarious reasons, but it does get people's attention. And we had the same thing at EMP,
Right.
and people gave a shit about that too, all in good fun, about the infinite money loop, or infinite
Mm.
money generator. But really, again, the core principles are what matter. And so, you did an amazing job of explaining, how this all works. And LA posted a picture. We have a diagram of how it works as well for the more visual learners. But the idea is,
Yes.
yeah, so you, with this quote unquote system, and again, this is not financial advice. Everybody we're never pushing the buttons for people. It's everybody's own decision. But if more people followed this structure, it would literally curb hardly all selling pressure on Spark, which would increase the APR in all the farms and pools, because you're earning Spark, and doing it while you're still able to profit. Because again, I think there's a distinction between protocols
Right.
that say, yeah, compound to infinity, like that a lot of protocols say that, and in the end,
Mm.
the investor is the one that gets screwed, because they've never taken profit. We are absolutely encouraging profit taking, but we're encouraging it in a healthy way, and doing it through this sort of breakdown where you're earning Spark PLS. You can break your LP and keep the PLS as profit. That is profit, and you could, again, sell the PLS. You could keep it and hope it goes up. You could transfer it right to stable tokens, but none of that has any negative effect on the protocol. It reduces our liquidity slightly, but I mean, with $2 million of liquidity, that's
Hmm.
okay. And it's a small price to pay if that means that people aren't selling the native asset. And so, yeah, I mean, that is all part of the overall deal. And just to clarify too, there is a 400% bonus on shares, but that doesn't equate to um, 400% a day, or or in terms of APR. So I just want to make that really clear, that you're getting a bonus on the shares, and the shares
Right.
are what determine your again allocation of the protocol fees that you're receiving. So we definitely took some inspiration from Hex. Again, back to the original point of that, and although we're not minting tokens out of fresh air like Hex did, we absolutely feel that there is value in rewarding people for locking up longer. And like you said, Matt Heather, yes, it is a give and take. You are running the risk that you have to ROI through the yield, but if you do, then
Hmm.
it is literally a cash cow, or cash passive income machine, for years to come. And if you believe in what we're building, then again, I think that the yield could be insane. And one of those things is through the bridge, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. The bridge is something that I was absolutely going to touch on, and I'm glad you said. You've mentioned yield a couple of times. It's amazing that there are so many people out there, and I'm sure a ton of people listening right now who are always looking for the next moon token, right? And they're spending so much time on, when am I going to find the 100x token? When am I going to find the 1000x token? And those are so few and far between. By the time you actually find them, chances are you've bought in at the top. And it's about rejigging investor mindset to yield being where actually you can earn a ton more money over maybe a longer period of time. But if you give it that time, you can earn a lot. And I always find it fascinating that something like this, although I mean, I'm about to say something like this doesn't always get the attention it deserves. 8.36 million in 11 days is a lot of
Yeah,
attention.
yeah.
Um,
I'd say we have some attention
Right.
for sure. Yes.
But I just find it fascinating that this yield concept sometimes is a bit lost on people, and they still don't necessarily um, play or use the system as it's intended to, that benefits them long term. And of course, it benefits the DEX, it benefits a protocol. Of course, it does. That's the whole point. They're designed in a certain way to be played a certain way. In terms of that, is there going to be a zapping function that is going to automatically do that for people? I know you don't want to push the button for them, you said. In terms of making it maybe just a bit more intuitive to allow people to know where to put it that is the most beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, no doubt. So thank you for addressing that. I forgot to answer that in the first time you asked, but yeah, I mean that is very important. So right now, again, as we've talked about already, we definitely have our hands full. We're trying to build as fast as we can while still
Build
making sure.
faster.
Yeah, exactly. Right on, man. But while still maintaining the safety and integrity. I mean, again,
Mm.
that's really important to us. We've never had to exploit. We've always, done what we said we were going to do, even at EMP, and we bring that same mantra to Sparkswap. But yes, the Zapper function is definitely something that we're hoping to implement. I know a lot of people were asking for an automated version of this infinite money generator that we are rolling out. And
Mhm.
the reality right now is that that infrastructure is not built on Pulse. So, these auto vaults that we're used to, through Beefy or Dex Finance,
Right.
these auto vaults are not, they're not available on Pulse yet. So, again, to my point earlier, we have to build them. So, if
Right.
nobody else will, then we will. So, yes, that is also in the works. Again, we're going to transition into a full-fledged DEX at Sparkswap. And I think that that's another thing people are losing sight of a bit.
Mm.
Eventually, Spark will be non-inflationary, period, and there will be a maximum supply, and then we move to the real yield model, and definitely even for the farms and pools where you're rewarded with actual a percentage of the yield rather than just inflationary tokens. And so, people that are selling now, again, to each their own. But you may have to buy back Spark, at a more expensive price when all that transition happens. And again, it
Right.
may be months down the road. Again, we work as fast as we can. But all that being said, yeah, there's a lot of core functionality that we want to put in. But that means that we have to literally build it,
Right, of
and
course. And yeah, and
implement
as you
it
say, these things do
ourselves.
take time. Um, and it just so happens when it comes to auto vaults that you've partnered with someone who created some vaults that were outperforming Beefy by quite a significant percentage. So, that partnership alone is going to be very strong for you
Yes,
guys.
totally.
Let's talk about the bridge. You are the only bridge, if I'm not mistaken, that is from Pulse to BSC, right? At the moment.
So right now the bridge is actually not live.
Okay.
So the UI is there. The code is finished. It's actually quite simple code, but we know that bridging can be the number one exploit in all of crypto. And again, we're not naive to that by any means. That's what we're solving with L1 Dex and L1X. But yeah, so right now because L1X is not interoperable with Pulse. We're lobbying to get that added down the road, but again, we're not part of the L1X team. We can only, chime in like any other community member.
Hmm.
But yeah, once that's live, then all the problems are solved because we would just move the bridge um, to a partner Dex with L1 Dex. But until that's ready, we have to have a solution. And yeah, the number one issue right now on Pulse is bridging.
Right.
Again, with the SEC, coming down on Pulse, a lot of other exchanges and the bigger guys removed the Pulse token, because they don't want that liability
Hmm.
until there's clarity given. And again, we're just building on top of Pulse. We're not exposed to that risk as much as others maybe, specifically Richard. But we're providing a solution in a decentralized way that there is nobody running the bridge, and the rewards go to all the users. So
Hmm.
again, the bridge will be um, a major revenue stream for Sparkler itself. And right now, I mean, there could potentially be hundreds of thousands of dollars a day that are going through the bridge because it not only is it the only BSC to Pulse bridge, but it may be one of the only functioning bridges. Period. So right now, again, the only way to get into Pulse is through a third party or using the native bridge, which is connected to Ethereum, and it's very expensive, especially when you're moving smaller amounts to get money onto Pulse. So again, I think it'll be a win-win. It'll be a revenue stream for us at Sparkswap, and a small portion goes back to EMP as well. And we're furthering the adoption of Pulse because we're letting people onboard more
Right.
easily. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
I'm glad you said, furthering the adoption of Pulse and onboarding people, because one of my questions, one of the points that I wanted to raise is that you're going to be onboarding projects that you have a close relationship with, but a secondary move to that is going to be that you're going to have projects that will come on and potentially you're either toying with the idea or you've already implemented what you think is going to be the idea that will become live when you bring other projects in, and that will see the project or their community have to buy Spark to get involved. I mean, to me, that's an incredibly smart idea. Can you talk me through how that might look?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're already starting these conversations, and just to clarify, what Matt Hatter is referring to is bringing on other successful, again, not rug pulls or shady projects. There will be some due diligence that we go through, but yeah, to bring
Right.
these protocols onto Sparkswap to provide liquidity through us. Again, the only way to provide liquidity on a token on Pulse right now is through, PulseX, which is the native option. But just like we've seen with other dexes popping up on these major chains, SushiSwap is very successful, even though Uniswap is the big dog. So that's sort of the same model. And yes, so we will allow partners to have their own LP, adding LP through us. We then give them some of the Spark emissions or reward token, but in return, they have to actually use Spark as a governance token. So again, that means either buying it and burning it, or their community has to farm it for a while and then submit the amount required to be a partner. So there's a lot of ways that we can do it, and it's beneficial to partner protocols because just like a launch pad, we have a lot of eyeballs on us right now. I mean, we're doing $400,000 a day in volume just on Spark alone.
Right.
So there's massive value, to other partner protocols that want to get involved with us to expose their community, to our community. So again, it can be, not only is it an economic play, but it's also a marketing play as well.
You always allow me to segue so nicely into my next set of questions. Marketing. It would be one of the ones that we finish on. One of the things that you were doing is very cleverly working in the background, and as I already mentioned, LA is doing wonderful things with the bank in terms of getting exposure there. I know you have something special that you're going to be able to do with L1 Dex through the bank that you're not going to give too much details on. I tried last time, and you were very tight-lipped. Can you explain what kind of unique avenues you guys are taking at the moment to really get the word out there, outside of the usual channels of like a CEE like this one, for example, and, the YouTuber content that might go out?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, again, LA has been killing it. And our entire community that rallies behind our AMAs. I mean, even today we have 130 people in here, which is massive.
Yes.
Wherever we go, we bring a big stick with us. So, but yeah, that being said, again, we do have a lot of unique features, and yeah, unfortunately, I still can't drop the alpha because it is proprietary. Something that Dex Finance and Jake, they're actually building this infrastructure for DBank or to utilize DBank in a very specific way. And yeah, there is going to be some massive direct targeting, especially through the Dex. And once that is live, we will have access to it as well for Sparkswap. So again, if there are any protocol owners that are listening today, do not sleep on DBank. It's very powerful, and if you can use it properly, it's what we feel is the best marketing solution out there right now, other than AMAs and Twitter and I mean even Twitter now. Twitter's become kind of a shit show in terms of crypto.
Yes, it has.
So we really feel like it's a better solution. And already, all of our protocols, EMP, Spark, and L1 Dex, we're all already in the top 100 protocols on the
Right.
entire platform.
Which is
So,
huge.
yeah,
And I mean,
absolutely.
Sparkswap in the first 11 days being up there is crazy.
For sure.
That's a great statistic to have as well. You guys are creating, and we've already discussed this a little bit. You guys are creating an ecosystem. You said to me last time, and I've heard you say it kind of in other AMAs, you're playing chess, not checkers. Everything is by design, and of course there are going to be some questions surrounding, and I haven't asked them today because I asked them last time, surrounding whether or not you're overstretching, and you gave me a perfectly adequate answer. At the time that you were dropping Sparkswap, and then we see what happened here. So it's obviously not holding you back. You're creating an ecosystem that is going to be massive if it all comes together in the way that you are expecting it to, of course. How do you get your head around getting to this position? I know that you have had these thoughts in your head. I know that you've always been trying to work towards creating an ecosystem of, and especially one of trust. I said that at the beginning as well. I appreciate that it's about trusting the team and an ecosystem that isn't going to be rugging you anytime soon, and you guys aren't disappearing you're not going anywhere. You plan to stay around for the long haul. How do you get your head around what you've got so far in terms of what you had 2-3 years ago? I mean, it must be a great achievement for you, and it must leave you feeling all sorts of kind of weird and wonderful feelings, right, as you're moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt Hatter. So, again, I think the more you listen to me on our own AMAs, or the more that you get to know the true person, behind these protocols, whether it be me personally, or LA, or any of our devs, or our community. And again, we have, I keep saying it, but we literally have the best community in crypto, and that has been proven with the launch of Spark as well. But yeah, I mean, we definitely have bigger plans. Obviously, there's only so much time in the day, but we are, scaling up appropriately. So you made a great point earlier, Mad Hatter, about, again, we keep talking about LA, but she was a community member,
Right.
and she was given the same opportunity that all of you have to go above and beyond for whatever protocol you're passionate about, and be rewarded. So we are absolutely always on the lookout for those that go above and beyond. We're going to be rolling out a brand new VIP program that really capitalizes on that commitment, and giving people amazing opportunities through what we're building in return for helping us spread the load, and having these key partnerships. Again, we've become very close with the Dex Finance guys. They are allowing us to, essentially quadruple our development team. So there's a lot of things that are in the works that will allow us to scale appropriately, and again, not bite off more than we can chew. And for me, yeah, I mean, obviously, having a successful protocol is a feather in my crypto cap. But really, I'm not here, for the glory. I'm here just to really build something that is sustainable, because, and I'm sure you know, Mad Hatter, even with EMP, like, we did everything we could to make it successful. And no matter what, a bear market comes in, or other extenuating circumstances can really hurt a project, and that doesn't mean that we did anything wrong, or weren't genuine on really trying to build. But this is the cutting edge of financial technology, and
Right.
we don't get it right every time, but we can absolutely commit and promise to never give up. And I think that is even more important, than building itself. We will always be able to pivot. Even in my personal life, I'm a master at that. Being able to play the cards that I'm dealt in the most optimal way possible, and never having an excuse, never letting anything hold us back. And we definitely put that onto our entire ecosystem for sure.
Right. Great. Yeah. And, like I said right at the beginning, I challenge the community to just think about how to rejig the way you see these kind of things. Of course, there are going to be people that are rightly so highly skeptical of high yield farming, and I understand why. And this might not necessarily be for you, but the extra mechanics that are being brought into this, and the extra projects that are being attached to this, and what you guys are building, is all designed to drive traffic through here. So if somebody wanted to speculate and wants to speculate on PulseChain, and they believe that, for example, if the SEC drops the case against Richard Hart, or he settles, and let's face it, more often than not in these kind of circumstances they settle, then Pulse, as you already mentioned, could well go on a massive run. If you're going to speculate on something like this, take 5, 10, 15 minutes out of your day for a couple of days to really learn how it works, and take a look at a short-sighted overview versus a long-sighted overview. There's nothing wrong with being short-sighted if you want to take a small gain off the table after a week, for example. But the long-term view that you're building also deserves people looking into a long-term view in terms of investment. And they might find that, when those two views align perfectly, actually that's where most of the gains are going to be made.
I love it. Absolutely, Mad Hatter. And you bring up one great final point. And again, it may be a fault of me as a project owner, but you'll never hear me say, everybody must get into our protocol. It's
Hmm.
okay if you want to sit this one out. Again, we're not here to convince anybody. And I think other projects, all they care about is new users. And obviously, that's, very important to the success. But we would much rather have educated, users and investors than somebody that may be over invested and always looking at the chart and getting nervous. I mean, again, we at the core of what we do, we want
Hmm.
to educate people to be better crypto users. And again, if this isn't a project for you, that's okay. But continue to keep an eye on what we're doing, and as you said at the very beginning, support projects that are out here doing right by their communities, whether it's ours
Right.
or anybody else. I think that is a very important fact.
Agree. And I'm going to correct you there, not projects, but
There
teams.
you go, brother. Yes,
Support teams
totally.
that are doing that are doing right by people. Sorry, that's me being cheeky now. Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. And I advise everybody here not to sleep on the EMP team. One of the things that I regret, in particular when it comes to Sparkswap, is that if I had been more vigilant on what you guys were doing, I would have noticed that this was a fair launch in terms of Spark. Yes, you had some VIPs that were able to get in 24 hours earlier, but AJ's telling you that just being around, giving your time, giving your effort gets you noticed. And if you get noticed, you might find yourself with one of those VIP spots. And if you had been able to jump into Spark at the beginning, not only would you've been, I suppose, getting massive APRs, but was it less than, what did it start at? Less than 6 cents, less than 5 cents, something like that.
Yeah, so the launch price was 5 cents, and yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up for sure, Matt Hatter, and yeah, I mean we another really important factor is as far as these VIPs and giving out tokens. There was no pre-sale, there was no airdrop.
Right.
This is all people that had to buy Sparkswap to begin with, and yeah, obviously they got a great deal, but we can see it in the chart that these VIPs are not dumping on our heads. They understand how to yield through the protocol in a very healthy way. And this has given us an amazing floor in terms of Spark, and again the chart speaks for itself. Even if we're able to maintain at a dollar level or so, that is unheard of in terms of yield farm.
Hmm.
So again, I think anybody can spin it to meet their narrative, but we're definitely rewarding those that are most loyal, but doing it in a non exploitative way for the rest of the community for sure.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly going to be more vigilant on what you guys are doing. One of the things that we pride ourselves here on at the Pillars is we're moving towards what we call a Web3 model, where we want to reward people for reward our community members for engaging with us. And the way we want to do that is giving a portion back of however much we make as the Pillars towards the community. And one of the things that we have decided on is that we are going to take a little bit of our own money, put it into the Sparkler, and we're going to start farming. And 100% of that is going to go, once we've got our infrastructure in place, 100% of what we make through that is going to go to the community members that engage with us the most and deserve those rewards. So we're going to be supporting you ourselves directly with a little bit of money that's going to go directly to the community. And any of the people that are listening now that want to jump into the Pillars, engage, ask questions about Sparkswap, etc., you'll be able to earn a portion of that yield.
I love it. That's bullish, right on. And again, Matt Hatter, providing opportunities like that is part of our mission as well. We've had multiple projects on Pulse actually invest their part of their treasuries to yield on the protocol. And again, I mean, yes, there is, risk as with anything in crypto, but that is a big vote of confidence to what we're building. And again, it's only been 11 days, so it's exciting for sure.
Yes, it is. AJ, I know you're busy. I know you do a ton of these, so I'm going to let you go because I've had you now for over an hour. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. I was really struggling to find any unique angle to come at you with this one because there's so much information out there in such a short space of time, which is a real testament to what you're building. If people want to jump into the Discord, of course, if you want to be eligible for the giveaway, you've got to jump into the Discord. So do that now. LA has just linked it up there, but I'm going to relink it now just for anybody that can't see that link. Jump into the Discord, ask questions. This team are not afraid to answer difficult questions. An audit has come out. We didn't discuss that. That's something that you can ask questions about in the Discord. There were red flags on the audit that are explainable and have been explained by AJ. And in his words, it was in the interest of true transparency. He explained why that red flag was there, what it was for, the reason behind it. I think you guys are doing fantastic things within the space, and I can't wait to keep having you back with everything else that you build.
Yeah, thank you, Matt Hatter. And again, I can take 2 seconds just to comment on that. We did get an OX Guard audit or Ox Guard, and yeah, there was a total of 3 red flags. The first 2 we fixed and submitted for a recheck, which was passed. But the third one had to do with our rehypothecation, and I had mentioned that again at the early part of this AMA. That is very, very unique to us, and it's not something that again is in the original MasterChef code. And to avoid having to relaunch the protocol every time that we wanted to add a new form, we had to leave that there. But it doesn't open up any vulnerability. Anybody can still withdraw their tokens. It's just simply the emergency withdrawal that you see on the contract level. You have to trigger that to then remove it from the pool and the rehypothecated LPs as well. So it's not an exploit or an
Right.
issue, but it is something that we as a team, in the interest of transparency, wanted to leave in there and explain why. And once we move towards the actual decks where we own all the LP anyway, and it's not rehypothecated, that will be a non-issue as well. So, and yeah, we would love to answer any other questions. Again, like Matt Hatter said, we're running a little bit long today, but I'm happy to answer anything. I'm in the pillars, so you can tag me or any other team member to answer, or even the community. A lot of our community will jump in and answer even before I do. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Right. Yeah. And just to finish on 100% uptime and never been exploited.
Absolutely.
Those are the statistics that you're standing behind. So yeah, that's the last food for thought. AJ, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. And I really look forward to doing this
All
again
right. Thank you,
soon.
Matt Hatter, and much love to the entire Pillars community. David as well. I know he was in here at the beginning, but yeah, thank you all. And yes, much love.
All right. Take care, everybody.